So for today's video is we're gonna talk about the Philippine globalizations. There are issues and problems that we've encountered or the Philippines encounters. So first, before we gonna talk about this, let me share my screen which I made my output. So here, Philippine globalization. So let's discuss about the issues, problems we have in the Philippines. So what is Philippine globalization? Globalization is the means by which countries interact with each other. It is growth to a global or worldwide scale. It is a process of interaction and integration among the people and government of different nations, a process driven by international trade and investment and aided by information technology. In simple terms, it is the flow of money, goods, and information and people in increasing need, speed, and magnitude of movement. The globalization of the Philippines, in my own opinion, has grown since the development of the country. There are a lot of technological and global advances that has gone in the Philippines, and I feel that if this country continues to progress in this direction, they will eventually reach the goals that we have been set. So there are many issues and problems in the Philippines, but we will gonna talk about these three problems or issues that we've encountered or the Philippines encountered. So these three are politics, culture, and economics. So we will gonna talk about first the politics. So what is politics in a globalization? So political globalizations refers to the intensification and expansion of political interrelations across the globe, according to Manfred Steger, refers to the growth of the worldwide political system, both in size and complexity. The amount of political cooperation that exists between different countries. So, what are the issues or problems that politics brought in the Philippines? So, political globalization is just another dimension of globalization. Globalization has three dimensions. First is the political globalization. Second is economic globalization. Third, and cultural globalization. So the one of the examples showing the occurrence of political globalizations are the international organizations. There are a lot of international organizations, but I will show you a example that showing the occurrence of political globalization. Let's just say, for example, this one, the World Bank and the United Nations. So now let's move on to the different issues under the political globalization. There are three issues that I've researched in this problem of political globalization. And these are the Scarborough Shoal dispute, Philippines versus China, colonization of Spain in the Philippines, Jewish survivors in the Philippines, and Holocaust time. So there are three, but we were only gonna tackle about only one issues under the political globalization, and I choose to talk about is the Scarborough Shoal dispute that is also known here in the issues in the Philippines. So, what is this Scarborough Shoal dispute? So, this one is the picture of a Scarborough Shoal dispute. So, what is the meaning of Scarborough Shoal? Scarborough Shoal is a rock in the South China Sea, approximately 120 nautical miles west of the Philippine islands of Luzon. So, what is the story or history behind of these issues? So now the story is all about that Philippines is claiming that this Caribou Shoal is still part of West Philippine Sea. And on the other hand, the China also believe that this island is still part of South China Sea. So that's the reason why there is a conflict between their countries. Then there is a particular organization that only helps the dispute between the two countries, and then this organization is the ASEAN, which is the Association of Southeast Asian Nation. And if we talk about what happened or who really this Scarborough Shoal belongs to is if it is only according to my research is but the future is effectively controlled by the China now. So those issues are the issues that are really under the political globalizations that will help you to understand what really the meaning and what is the really the concept of political globalization. Yeah. So here the issues that are really under the political globalization would help you to understand what. So the next one is culture. So what is culture in a globalization? So, cultural globalizations refers to the transmission of ideas, meanings, and values around the world in such a way as to extend and intensify social relations. So, what are the effects of globalization to our Philippine culture? So, globalization of culture contributes to the exchange of cultural values of different countries, the convergence of tradition. So in addition, globalization made it possible for Filipinos to learn new words and develop understanding with regards to language. In terms of language monitoring, globalization affected the Filipino language because Filipino became sensitive and meticulous in using their language. What is the issue of cultural globalization that happen or becomes and problems here in the Philippines? So there are problems that cultural globalization brings. First is more use of foreign language other than native language in educational institutions. Second is the foreign fashion and food influences. The third is slowly forgetting the sense of one's own culture. So first is we were gonna talk about the more use of foreign language other than native language. So with increased migration and the growing popularity of international schools, the number of children learning in a language other than their mother tongue is growing rapidly. So educational videos commonly use foreign language. Even the nursery rhymes played for the babies use other language common English. So the second one is foreign fashion and food influences. With the rapid rise of globalization over the past years, the spread of fashion and cuisine has mirrored the changes in the culture in daily life that globalization has brought to the Philippines. Like it also because clothing styles and foods have been one of the most obvious and poignant indicators of cross-cultural interchange. So, which we can relate, yes, also here today's now generation, like today's generation where people do like this. Mm, some of the fame are causing a popularity, they will copy it, like which you can relate during watch days in schools. Students are like having fashion show, dressing like a fashion show, dressing like their I dressing a like a idol or their K-pop idol or Hollywood idol like K-pop, like this one, or Hollywood idol. And it's even ever easier for them to find costumes for cosplay than to find a barong and Filipiniana. And also in a foreign foods restaurant, which is now we are people commonly go to a expensive restaurants like foreign foods, like those expensive or those trending on social media. Then the Filipinos forgot to eat the mostly eaten in the Filipino street, what we call like that one. So the third is slowly forgetting the sense of one's own culture. Because of the competition and change brought up by the globalization, people tend to study more foreign ideas, language, and cultures. So they need to understand different nationalistics identity as it is believed to help keep up the changing world. So as a result, our own culture's been fading slowly. Example here are the Koreabus, those who aren't born a Koreans but living like one. Giving importance to one's own culture is important as it is the basic foundation of a strong nation. So the next problem is economic. So what is economic globalization? It is the spread of trade, transportation, and communication systems on a global scale in the interest of promoting international commerce. So when talking about economic globalization, there are different types of economics that we should know about. First is protectionism and trade liberalization. So what is protectionism? Is protecting one's economy from foreign competition by creating trade barriers, while the trade liberalization is the act of reducing trade barriers to make international trade easier between countries. So what are economics globalization's issues? Studies also suggest that globalization may contribute to income disparity and equality between the more educated and less educated people of a society. That means that unskilled workers may be affected by declining wages, which are under constant pressure from globalizations. So what are the economic issues in the Philippines? So among the issues that they address are the food insecurity, hunger and poor nutrition, poor quality of education, land and housing insecurity, and poor sanitation. Loss of property, unmoney poor, and even non-poor households remain vulnerable. So that's all the discussion we're going to talk about. And thank you. See you next time.